I'm back again with another video, and today we're going to talk about functions again. I'm going to get into a little more detail, and so this is functions part 2. It's lesson 26. So notice at the top I started out with my name and the program description, functions continued part 2, and the date, and then I have my header files, my include statements, and then using namespace. Notice how I did this little hash line just to kind of separate things out, makes it a little easier for me to keep up with what I'm doing. And in this video, I'm going to use it just as an example to show you how things work, okay? So notice how I put this comment here, and I have a comment A, B, and C. And down here I describe, and it's similar to the first video, right? Item A above, this is the return type. So this int statement right here, that's your return type. That means you're going to return an integer value from this particular function. All right, now if you look here, item B, it says this is the name of a function. That is what we use to call the function when we need it. So this name of this function is larger. It's like a variable. The same rules apply for creating a function name as for any variable. All right, so that works just like a variable, only this time we're naming the function. And then item C above, these are the values that we are passing to the function. So see this C up here? This num A, we could pass a 2 to num A. Num B, we could have a value of 3 in num B coming from main. So main would be sending those values to this function, and then the function would do the work. It would actually execute these statements. If num A is greater than num B, return num A. Else return num B. So if A is greater, then 2 would return, but A is not greater here, right? 2 is less than 3, so else will happen. Num B will return. So 3 will return back to main and give that value to that call statement. Okay? So I want you to notice again, function, this function is before the main. Main is further down. We have another couple of functions here. I have int get grades, and I have int num grades. That means the number of grades is coming from main, right? Main will be sending num grades here. And then, so whatever that is, it might be a 5 or whatever. So enter a number of grades. So if the user types in the 5, it returns num grade back to main, and now main knows how many grades that we're going to have when we try to do our averages, okay? Now this one I want you to notice. Double get average, we have double sum and int num grades. So double means it's going to be a decimal value that's returned, because look, we're going to divide sum by the number of grades. So if we have a sum of, I don't know, 500, and we had 5 grades, then the average, get average, is going to return back to main with an average of 100, right? 500, the sum is 500, we had 5 grades, 500 divided by 5 is 100. So their average, their get average is going to be 100. Now, a void data type means the function does not return any value to main. So it won't send anything back. And down here underneath we have a void data type. See below. The only thing this function is doing is printing out the average grade. Determine the letter grade that goes with it and prints the letter grade. That's all this function does. It says see out the average, and then AVG is printed. And then it says if AVG is greater than or equal to 90, see out an A. Else, if it's greater than or equal to 80, see out a B, etc. So it'll see out the average and whatever that average value is, and then a letter grade that goes with it. So that's all this does. It prints out. It doesn't send a value back to the main. It just does some if statements and some see out statements, and it's done. Now, this little function. This is called a function prototype, because do you see any commands with it here? You don't. You don't see those commands that you see with a function, like this one up here, this void function, all these commands, these statements. Those are called the definition, the function definition. This, all you have is a function prototype. There is no definition. In other words, you're telling C++, the compiler, hey, I have a function, but it's not here. I didn't give you the whole function definition. I'm just telling you I have a function, but I didn't put the whole definition here. Instead, I put my function definition after int main. So at the bottom of main, there's that same statement, right, that prototype, but then we have all our definition of that function. That's a way to just list, you could just list your functions above int main, and that just lets the compiler know you have some functions, and it knows to go below main to find them, okay, to find the actual definitions. That's just another way you can do it. So you can put them before int main, or you can use a prototype, like I did here, a function prototype, and then put your actual full function after int main. That's one of your options. Now notice we finally got to main. So this is main. Main calls these different functions and uses them, okay? So we're going to write a program that will ask a user for the number of grades they want to average, get those grades, determine the sum, the average of all of them, and then output the average and grade to the screen. Alright, so here we declare our variables. We got an integer number of grades. How many grades do we have to just add up and then divide and get an average? And then we have some variables. We have a sum, we have a grade, and we have average. And notice we set these equal to 0 because we're going to be doing some math with them, and so we need to initialize them. Now, right here, this we are calling a function, get grades, and then we have our parameter in here, num grades. If I look up here, I have a function called get grades integer num grades. So it'll go and do this function, right, and then come back. And so do that function in which lets the user input how many grades there are, and it assigns that, whatever comes back from the function, it assigns it to this value right here, to this variable. And look at this, the same thing. We have a call. This is a call, so is this. This is a call to the function above. This is a call to the function above. It'll go and it'll do that function. We have a function up here called sum. I can find it. Where is my sum? Get sum. Okay? Here it is. And it'll return a value, and it'll put that value in that get sum. It'll put that value in sum. And now we have a value in here. And we assigned it as a double. Okay? So this is a call to that prototype, or that function above. And this is a call to the function above. The get sum, num grade, grade sum, this, right here, this, is a call to the function. You can see the function above int main. It's above int main. You must keep the order of the variables correct when you pass them to a function. Notice the order here is exactly the same as it is up here where you actually declared your function. Let me find it again. Okay, I keep going past it. Here it is. These are in the same exact order, okay? Now notice when I do a call, I don't have to tell what kind of data type we have. But when I design my function, my prototype, then I have to have the kind of variable, the data type, with the variable name. Okay, notice that. Alright, here's another function. It calls a function get average sum num grades. And again, that is up on top. Okay? And then this is another function, but notice I don't have an equal to because this function is a void function. Remember it? Here, output double average, right? That's a void function. It doesn't return a value, so it doesn't have to equal anything. I just say, hey, run that function. That function prints everything out for me. So that was my last function, and if you notice, that's the end of my program. Now I've got some commented out stuff here just to help explain things further. So the get sum, num grade sum is a call to a function, this right here. You can see the function above. Okay, we talked about that one. The statement above calls a function get average sum, num grades, and again, that function is above. Output average. Since void functions do not return anything, we do not put a variable in front of the function call. Like this one has a variable to hold that return. This doesn't return anything, so we don't need a variable. Functions are subprograms. They're little programs, okay? Subprograms to main. They exist outside of main. So you use a call statement. These are call statements right here. That's a call statement. This is a call statement. To execute that function, and you use it when you need it, okay? Now this is a function that you could check, you could use when you use files, right? To see if the file exists. So you could say, if not iFile is open, see out the file's not found. So you could create a function that does this for you when you work with files. So it could, do a simple little program like that, check to see if that file exists, and if it can't find that file, it says file not found. Okay, and this is just another example of using that function, that first function we had above. And we set A to 2 and B to 3, and we talked about that earlier. And then here we tell it to print out the larger of the two. So it's calling that function above. That very first function, I'll scroll up to it just to see that you see it here. Okay? So it calls that, right? 2 and 3, that was a call to this function. Let me go back down to it at the bottom here. So this right here where it says larger AB, that's calling that function. The function operates, and then it actually see out whatever value. In this our case, the B or 3 was larger. All right, and that's the end. Now, if you remember, this is that function from earlier. I showed you that we just had a function prototype at the top, and then we have the definition of the function down here. All right, so if you have any questions, please post your questions to the discussion group. It might help someone else, so be sure and do that if you need to ask any questions. And I'll be here if you need me.